I'm Paul from Leicester Libraries, Neighbourhood Services, and the spooky story I want to share with you is Cold Johnny. We're in a graveyard up in the moorland above the village. It's bleak and bare, and it's guarded by a ghoul. Cold Johnny. I don't know if you know what a ghoul is. It's not exactly a ghost. It's like a skeleton. There's no flesh, no eyes, no body, just the bones in a big hooded shroud. And it guards the graveyard. So no one goes there, especially at night when it's dark and cold. And everybody stays in their houses, afraid that they will hear a bony knock on their door. And they will know it's Cold Johnny walking through the village. Well, one time, a little lad called Poor Patch came to visit the village. He was an orphan. Both his mum and dad had passed away. And he had to work hard for his living, for food and for shelter. And one day he came to the village and he went to see a farmer called Mean Morgan. Mean Morgan. You get a sense of what he's like by his name. Mean he was. And he never did a straight deal. Poor Patch went and said, Can I work for you? Can I have some hot soup for some work? I'm not afraid of hard work. That's good, said Mean Morgan, because I've got some work for you. And you can have some hot soup in return. What do you want me to do? Said Poor Patch. Well, see that field over there? Full of rocks and stones. I want you to use those rocks and stones and build a wall all the way round the field to keep my sheep in. And that's what Poor Patch did all day. He worked and worked and worked, and it was hard work too, picking those rocks and stones and building into a wall. At the end of the day, he went to the farmhouse. Whew, he said, that was hard work. I'm ready for my soup. Soup, said Mean Morgan. What do you mean, soup? That was the deal. You would give me hot soup for the work that I've done. I'm afraid my wife can't be making any soup. She needs a hearthstone to build the fire on so she can heat the soup. Okay, said Poor Patch. I'll go in the field and pick up one of those rocks for you. Oh no, said Mean Morgan. That won't do. No. You need to go to the graveyard and bring me back a gravestone. That will be the perfect hearthstone for our fire. Are you afraid? No, said Poor Patch. I'm not afraid of nothing. That's what you think, so Mean Morgan, thinking that when he went to the graveyard and met Cool Johnny, he'd be afraid then and he'd never come back. So Poor Patch took a sledge and he walked through the village until he came to the graveyard. It was dark and cold and the wind blew, and he started to look around to find a stone, a gravestone that he could take back to be the hearthstone for the fire. But he couldn't lift them. They were so strong and hard, it was hard to move. And then he felt a bony tap on his shoulder. What are you doing in my graveyard with my stones? It was Cold Johnny. But Poor Patch, as he said, was not afraid of anything. Oh, he said, can you help me? I need one of these stones to go back home and help the farmer build his fire. If I help you, said Cold Johnny, what do I get? I know what, said Poor Patch. You can get some hot soup. Do you like hot soup? Hot soup, said Cold Johnny. Oh, I remember hot soup. I'll help you, but make sure you give me my soup. So Cold Johnny helped Poor Patch lift up one of the stones, put it onto the sledge, and take it back to the farmer. Mean Morgan, as you might imagine, was surprised to see him back. I can see you've done well there. Okay, there's the stone. Right, said Poor Patch, where's my soup? Oh, well, we need some wood. "Oh, wood's all right," said Paul Patch. "You've got lots of wood round here." "Oh, no," said me Morgan. "Can't use that wood. It's green and smoky. It's rubbish. Go back to the graveyard. There's lots of coffin wood up there. Perfect for a fire." So Paul Patch walked back to the village into the graveyard. And with an axe, he started to chop up some of the old coffins lying round the place. Chop, 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 chop. And then he felt a tap, tap, tap on his shoulder. It was Cold Johnny. "Where's my hot soup?" "Oh, I'm afraid it's not ready yet. We need some wood and we need some coffin wood. Can you help me? Gather it up, take it back to the farm, and then you'll get your hot soup." "All right," said Cold Johnny, "but I want my hot soup." So he helped Paul Patch gather up the coffin wood, load it onto the sledge, and take it back to the farm. Me Morgan and his wife couldn't believe their eyes. His wife said, "Look, he's back again. I can't believe it. No one could go to the graveyard twice and come back alive." "Well," said me Morgan, "I've got one more trick to play." Paul Patch said, "Well, there's the stone. There's the wood. Where's my hot soup?" "Oh, we need some meat. We need some bones. We haven't anything to put in the soup." "Oh, that's easy," said Paul Patch. "You've got that old chicken over there. That'll do." "Oh, no," said me Morgan. No, that's my chicken. No, that's not ending up in any pan of soup. No. You go back to the graveyard. Plenty of bones in there. You get there, bring some back, and you'll get your hot soup." So Paul Patch walked back to the village into the graveyard and started to look around for bones and bits, because some of the graves were opened up, and there was bones and skeletons, arm bones, heads and skulls and feet and all sorts of bits, and he started to gather them up. Old Johnny rose up behind a gravestone. "What are you doing to my friends? You can't mess with them." "Oh, I'm sorry," said Paul Patch, "but I need some bones for the soup." And I thought, well, you've got plenty of bones in the graveyard. You won't be needing them anymore. "They're my friends," said Cold Johnny. "Well, I need some bones to make the soup." "Tell you what I'll do," said Cold Johnny. And he took his leg bone and his foot bone off. Just pulled it off and handed it to Paul Patch. "There's your bone," he said. "You take that to the farm. I want my hot soup tonight." So Paul Patch went back to the village, back to the farm. Mean Morgan and his wife couldn't believe their eyes. He'd been to the graveyard 3 times and he'd come back. He said, "Here you are. Here's the bone for your soup. Put it in." So the farmer's wife did. She tucked it in the bowl and she chucked in some vegetables, and soon it was boiling away, and the smell of it was good. And Paul Patch was thinking, now I'm going to get my hot soup. After an hour, it was ready and was poured out into 2 bowls. One for me, Morgan, one for his wife, and none for Paul Patch. Paul Patch said, wait a minute. You've got your soup, and you've got your soup. Where's my hot soup? I've done all the work. Ha, said me Morgan. You should have known. I never keep my deals. I'm a trickster. I'm a cheat. And there's no soup for you. Get out now. He was thrown out of the door of the house into the fields. Outside on his own. And inside he gave the farmer and his wife slurping up their soup. He banged on the door. Bang, 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 let me in. I want my soup. I've worked hard. Bang, 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 bang. And then he heard a sound. Hoppity, hoppity, hop. Hoppity, hoppity, hop. Hoppity, hoppity, hop. Hoppity, hoppity, hop. It was Cold Johnny hopping down out of the graveyard through the village. Hoppity, hoppity, hop. hoppity hoppity hop, and he came to the door of the farmer. And he banged and banged and banged, and he smashed the door to pieces, and he hopped into the house. Hoppity hoppity hop, hoppity hoppity hop. Well, when me Morgan and his wife saw Cold Johnny heading through the door into their house, they fled out of the house, and they ran far, far away and never came back. So Cold Johnny and poor Patch sat down in front of the fire and had their hot soup. And very tasty it was. And then Cold Johnny hopped his way back to the graveyard. Well, as I said, me Morgan and his wife never came back. So the farm stayed with poor Patch. It was a good house, and he didn't mind hard work. But every day, every night, he makes a big bowl of hot soup. A bowl for himself and a bowl for Cold Johnny. And every night he goes up to the graveyard and leaves the bowl by the front of the graveyard for Cold Johnny. And in the morning he goes back to the graveyard and picks up the empty bowl. And the soup is always gone. But I ask you this, where does the soup go? Cold Johnny is a ghoul, just bones. No skin, no muscle, nothing but bones. Where does that soup go? Well, that's the end of the tale of Cold Johnny. Hope you've enjoyed it. Share it with someone else. Bye.